Hello friends, it's Shelley from Koala Knits and Knacks. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make these beautiful fingerless mittens. We are going to make this pair with a solid cuff, but I'm also going to show you how to make a second pair that you'll see scrolling across the screen here quickly or soon. And I'll give you instructions on those near the end of the video. But I'm going to use loops and threads heathered tweed yarn in the colors Merlot and gray blush. I'm also going to use Caron Simply Soft in the color white. Now these yarn combinations, these two yarn brands together make such a beautiful textured mitten, and you're going to love them. It looks so rich together. And so I'd love to see the ones that you make and the color choices that you choose in these two yarns if you choose to use the same type of yarn that I did. But we're going to make the two pair, and I want you to make sure that you also check my channel out, because at the same time I posted these mittens, I also posted the matching 4-point closure ear warmer that I designed for you as well. So please have a look for that and enjoy the process. Make yourself a nice set. Again, we are going to make the ones with the solid cuff, but I will show you how to make the other ones as well near the end of the video. So grab your machine. I'm using my 46 needle Addi, but you can go ahead and use your 48 needle Sentro if that's what you have. And we're going to get started on these beautiful mittens. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't done so already. I'd appreciate that. Take care, friends, and have fun in the process. All right, friends, so to begin this tutorial, we are going to take our 46 needle machine or our 48 needle, whichever you have. We're going to bring our last white and our first black in line with our yarn feed, and we're going to choose a waste yarn color that is different from our working yarn color so we can see the stitches at the end to close it up in a flat edge. So we're going to take that waste yarn, we're going to cast on with the drawstring, cast on going in front of that first black, behind the next, in front, behind, in front and behind, all the way around. Just let it slip through your fingers, don't put any tension on it. And if it's tight coming out of your ball, loosen it before you continue. It's always very important for the first row that you cast on, because there's no weight on your project to pull it down over the needle and onto those red teeth. So oftentimes we'll have problems in the first row if we cast on too tight. Now you're going to go slow. Again, very loose tension. Giving that loop a chance to get down over the red teeth. Don't rush this first and second row, friends, or you'll be frustrated. I'm going to pull that down. It always helps that first loop. Now that we got that started, we can go at a little bit faster pace, and I'm going to do 7 rows of waste yarn. Now, there's no magic number to the amount of waste yarn rows that you do. It's all personal preference. I see some people do 3, some do 4, some do 5. Actually, I don't watch a lot of videos on YouTube anymore, to be honest with you. But you can do... I'm just going to take a knot out of here. I've used this waste yarn before. You can use as many as you're comfortable with. My practice is 7. And I don't have a clue how many I've done. Let's say that's 5. This is 6. I think it's only 5, but that's okay. We'll do one more after this. And before we get to the end of our row, because I'm watching for... Oh, ran out of waste yarn. I used the one that was from my 40 needle machine. So that's okay. This is a teaching moment. I'm going to take another one. Because it's waste yarn, doesn't matter. Pop it in between there, because I want to finish at the end of my row. And then I popped a new one in there. I'm going to knit a few needles. I'm going to tie this off as though they're joined together. And I'm going to continue, but I'm just going to do one extra row here. And before that black divider comes around, because I take a black permanent marker and I mark that divider between the last white and the first black. Before it comes around, I'm going to set my row counter to 0. I'm going to line that up in front of my yarn feeder. I'm going to cut off my waste yarn tail, open my latch, pop it in between the last white and the first black, and I'm going to grab my gray yarn. It's loops and threads heathered tweed in the color gray blush. And I'm going to pop that into my yarn guide, and into the center we're going to knit 4 or 5 needles. Then we're going to help our tension. See, if we would just keep going, our tension on our first few needles of our row would be loopy and loose like this. So we don't want that. We're going to help those under the divider. We're going to take both ends of our yarn, pull away from each other, and that gives us a nice tension in there. Let's go slow on the first row because we're matching 2 different yarns together here as we're knitting. I'm going to take some slack out of the ball. There we go. And I'm holding it between my fingers like that, and I'm putting just a very light tension on it. Our machines love this yarn. And we're gonna just go for 12 rows. This is the cuff of our mitt, 12 rows. There we go. I have finished 12 rows. We're going to keep our counter going. We're not going to reset it for the mitten part. We're going to drop that gray. First, we're going to cut it off. We're going to drop it into the middle between the last white, the first black. Remembering we still have to finish knitting those two there, okay? We're going to grab our Merlot. Same yarn, different color. We're going to pop that into our yarn feeder. We're going to close the latch. We do not have to do a jogless join on this particular project because we're going to hide the seam when we sew it up, and you will see when we get there. So we're going to just pop that in the center. We're going to knit 4 or 5 needles. We're going to help those loops down underneath the dividers for tension purposes. Pull the ends away from each other. Back that up and look at that if you want to see the difference. Then we're going to take our ends. We're going to tie them in a knot, cut them off. We are done with that part. Oops, what did I just drop? We're going to knit 4 rows. So 13, 14, 15, and 16. This is 15, and one more makes 16. There we go. I'm going to cut that tail, open the latch, pop that in between the last white and the first black. Then I'm going to grab my Caron Simply Soft in white, pop that into the yarn feeder in between the last white, the first black. We're going to knit 4 or 5 needles, help that loop under, take both ends, pull it away, snug up that tension. Then we can go ahead and tie these off, cut them off. Done. 2 rows. Row 17 and row 18. There we go. We're going to cut our tail, open our latch, pop this in between, you got it, the last white and the first black. Now we're going to take our gray color again. Pop that in. So our cuff color. We're going to knit 4. Fix our tension, tie our knot. Let's make a song about it. Tie our knot, knit 4, make your tension good, tie your knot. I'm losing it. It's getting close to Christmas. I've been working hard. And we're gonna knit 4. 19, 20, 21, and 22. Stopping with your black divider in front of your yarn feeder, we are going to cut that yarn tail, open our latch, pop it between the last white, the first black, and we are going to grab our white yarn once again. Knitting 4 or 5, pull tight, tie off. I'm glad I'm in my basement and nobody can hear me. Sometimes I feel like I'm losing it. No, I just really enjoy it. It's fun. Okay, 2 rows. 23 and 24. All right, so I finished the 2 rows. I cut my yarn tail. It's in between the last white, the first black. We finished 24 rows. What we've done so far is we've done 12 rows of this gray blush for the cuff. Then we did 4 rows of Merlot, 2 rows of white, 4 rows of the gray blush, 2 rows of white. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to repeat these last 12 rows. So now we're going to do 4 rows of the Merlot, 2 rows of white, 4 rows of the gray blush, 2 rows of white. So do those 12 rows and see me back. So this is my 4 rows of Merlot, And then I'm going to do 2 rows of white, 4 rows of gray blush, 2 rows of white. I just finished that sequencing. I have 36 rows done. I'm going to cut my white, pop it into the center. I'm going to take my Merlot, pop it in, knit 4 needles, fix my tension, tie off the knot, and we are going to end the patterning by knitting 4 rows, but we're not done there, so you have to come back. 4 rows of Merlot, taking us to row 40. And 1 more is 40. I see that black divider coming around. I'm going to stop it in front of my yarn feeder. Then I'm going to cut my tail, open my latch, pop it in the center between the last white and the first black. Go ahead and grab your waste yarn. Pop it into the center there. We don't need to worry about the tension at the beginning of this, so you can just keep knitting because waste yarn's coming out. Go slowly because you're doing a different texture of yarn than what was previously on there. You want to make sure it catches. And there we go. Now, generally if I'm doing like a Kitchener stitch or something at the end of my project, I will knit my desired amount of rows, then I'll do a drawstring cast off so that all these loops are being held and my project doesn't start to unravel. But we're not going to do a Kitchener stitch. We're going to just do a braided close and so with our crochet hook. So we are going to knit just a few more rows just to make sure it holds in place. So I'm going to knit maybe 1 or 2 more rows than normal. Not to 8 rows, 1 more. Just because if it starts to unravel, I don't want it to get to my work before I'm done. There we go. And I'm going to, and I'll show you that what I mean if you're new, once we have it off the machine. Cut your yarn tail, pop it in between the last white, first black. Rotate your handle. The barrel goes around once. Now the second time it goes around, it's going to fall off. Just like magic. Except for sometimes these last 2, there's always got to be 1 in the crowd or 2 in the crowd that don't want to pay attention, and that's usually these last 2. So you just top them off, and there you go. I'll meet you back, and we're going to start sewing up the side. You got to make 2. You have 2 hands, make 2. All right, so here is one of them. We're going to stretch it both directions. And how beautiful. Oh, how beautiful. Okay, let's seam up the end of our project first because we, see what I mean? We didn't catch the stitches with the drawstring cast off, so this will start unraveling and it'll ravel right down into your work. So we want to take care of this side first. You're gonna grab yourself 2 stitch markers. We're gonna take our yarn tails and take a look at them. We're gonna look at our waste yarn tail here. The last loop that it's coming out of is this one. I'm gonna place my stitch marker in there. Pop that outside of your work. Take your second stitch marker and here's your working yarn. When you pull on this loop here, it's the last loop that this yarn made. There it is, right up at the very top there. Looking all nice and pretty. We're gonna put a stitch marker in there. Just like that. Make sure that tail is outside too. Because I've used the 46 needle machine, I have 46 little loops like this all the way around, and this is why we use waste yarn, so we can see our loops from the waste yarn loops and be able to sew it up appropriately. So I'm going to count around. This is the first one. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24 are the very far side. Taking my crochet hook, I'm going to go under loop 24. Count that as number 1 because we do not want to miss any of these loops, because then when you take your waste yarn off, then your row will unravel. This is the part of our mitt that's going to go over the fingers here. Okay, so I'm choosing to do the braided join because I like the firmer feel of it than to do the Kitchener stitch. We could do the Kitchener stitch here and it's a nice loose stitch, but I like the firmness and the ridge that this makes for the end of your hand. We're going to do the Kitchener stitch on the other side. We're going to pick up that, we put our crochet hook in 24, that counts as 1. We picked up 23, we're going to go through that loop, that's 2. We're going to go down to this next one, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is not crocheting. We're just using the hook of a crochet hook to do this. So you don't have to be scared if you don't crochet. It's not crocheting. All it is using the hook to pick up the next one, go through. Some people say, I can't do that because I can't crochet. You don't need to know how to crochet to do this, okay? I'm using a 5mm hook. A 4.5 or a 4 might be easier for you. Either one, doesn't matter. And I'm going to go back and forth, just like this, picking them all up. If you were new and you're not sure about where these stitches are, count them. Count from 1 right to 46. If you're not new, then you just can whip along and get it done. Being very careful, of course. All right, my friends, keep going till you get to the end. You can hear the snowblower out there. Often I will say, pardon the noise outside because you can hear my husband cutting the lawn. Now I'm going to say you can hear the snowblower. Actually, it's not him, it's the neighbor next door. We got a dump load of snow yesterday. But that's okay. It was December 8th, and up until then we didn't have a whole lot. Today's the 9th. We didn't have a whole lot, which is totally unusual for us here in Manitoba, Canada. But yesterday made up for it. I think we got like 8 inches just in one day. Okay. And under here, now here's where the bobby pins are so nice. This will be 45 if you're counting, because you can pick it up, get under that tighter loop and work it. This will always be 46 or 47 and 48 if you're using your Sentro. Oops, get that little tail out of the way. You can pick up on it, get underneath it, take out that stitch marker, work your last stitch, then take your yarn over, pull it through that loop to tie off a knot. Once that's done, you want to get this yarn tail out of the way. You're going to put it on your needle. You're going to put it through the center seam there and bring it out, but don't pull it all the way through. Put your thumb in there just to hold it. That way when you take your waste yarn off, it's not going to tangle all around that yarn tail that's out. And you can just pull off your waste yarn. I generally roll it up as I go, but for the sake of camera time, I'm just going to pull it off and I'll roll it up later. Okay. There we go. Now I'm going to take my loop that almost got buried and I'm going to pull it out, put it back on my needle. We are going to go under that top seam, just a few stitches, pull it through, but don't pull it tight because I don't want to wreck the corner there. Just want it nice. Go back, and then we're going to go into that seam, in between the 2 layers, bring it out, cut it off. That side is done. Again, that's for where your fingers are. All right, so taking that other side, we are not going to do the same kind of a seam. We're going to do the Kitchener stitch because then it's stretchier to get over your big part of your hand and to sit on your wrist. So we're going to take our waste yarn, and where it's coming out of that last loop, so if I was to pull this out, that last loop it's coming through is where you're going to put your stitch marker. Then to the left of it, our working yarn is right here. That stitch that's right to the left of that, right in line with it, is the stitch you're going to take. Make sure that your tails stay outside of your work. Now we're going to go around. We're going to find the very side stitches too. This is where I had to join. I'm going to cut that off so it doesn't get in my way. just like that. And so I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24 are my very side stitches. I'm going to take my needle with my yarn on it. Let me just mark this so that I can not have to count it around again. You're going to take a piece of yarn, put it on your needle that goes the length of going around. I would say twice should be enough. I always tell you to do 3 times, and it's usually way too much. So you're going to want to put a good length on your needle. Here is 24, loop 24. We're going to take our needle and we're going to go, let's say that this is the center, okay? Because it is. That's the center. We're going to just go into that stitch towards the center, pull it through. Leaving just a tail long enough to hide. Then I'm going to just hold that in the back with my fingers so that I don't tangle this around it every time I do it. This is stitch 23. I'm going to go from the top into the center. Okay, now here is the one that we already worked. This is 24. I'm going to go from closest to me into the center, then from the center out on that next one. And if you see it, it looks like a V stitch. When you fold that up, that looks like a stitch. We're going to take it. Do not pull this too tight or you'll get a ridge. We want to have nice tension that's equal to the tension here. So you got to kind of feel that out, and it comes with practice. Here is where we worked before. This is stitch 23. We're going to go down into the center and then back out of the next stitch. So down and then back out. I'm going to show you a visual once I get a few stitches done here, a better visual. Okay, here's the one we just worked down on the bottom. We're going to work into there again. So every stitch you go into twice. So into the center, and then from the center back out towards you into the next stitch. Pull through. I'm going to do one more up here, and then I'm going to show you a better visual. So I'm going to go from up here down into the center, then from the center back away, okay, into that next stitch, then pull through. Perhaps I should have used a different color waste yarn, but here's the stitch that we worked last, and this is the stitch we need to join. If you take those two and you fold this up like that, you get a V stitch. Then you can just take your needle and go right across. You see that's a V? That helps you to visualize what we're actually doing. It's actually in a way like a duplicate stitch, sorta. Here's the one we finished at the top, and we're gonna work this one. So now we're gonna bend that away, and you can see, sort of, here's a V. If I go straight across, that's my stitch. So I'm picking it up, coming through. It's hard to see on this darker yarn, so sorry. Here's the one we worked last. That's the one we're gonna go into, so let me bend it up. Now you can see that V. All you gotta do is go right across. Once you get that going across motion, then you visualize what the stitch actually looks like, and it helps you to do it the way we started out doing it. Okay, so here's the one I worked. I'm gonna bend this like this. And there's the V. I'm gonna just go straight across. Okay, I do have a tutorial on how to do the Kitchener stitch. Perhaps you'll be able to see it better than with this yarn, so do check it out. Now I'm just going to continue going all the way across into that last stitch, back out through the one that's next. Don't pull too, I mean, you don't want it too tight, just a nice tension there, but be careful when you're actually working it through, pulling your yarn tail through, because this yarn can tangle quite easily. And pull it through into the one I worked last and over to the next one. And pull it through. You are giving me some hassle. We're going to put you underneath that little ridge. And I'm going to continue all the way along. This is the Kitchener stitch, and trust me, if I can do it, you can do it. It took me a bit to catch on to it, but then when I realized that the visual of the V, then as soon as I saw that in my mind's eye, as soon as I figured it out that way, then I was able to do it the other way without bending it and going straight across. But if you still have to bend it and go straight across, you go ahead and do that until it connects with your brain. I'll meet you when you get to the end. I have just the ones where my stitch markers are. It's important to use those stitch markers. I'm going to go right across into the stitch marker. Then I can take that stitch marker out. And for here, into that last stitch, there's my V right across. Pull this one out. And I cut my yarn tail partway through because it was, of course, too long. I'm going to tie a knot. Cut those off a little bit. We're going to put those onto our needle, pop them into the center just to get them out of the way so they don't tangle around our yarn as we are unwinding it, just like we did on the other side. This one, we have to take out the first row of stitches before we can, where's my yarn tail? Right there. Before we can unravel it. So you're going to find your yarn end and you're going to see which way it's going. It's this way. So I'm going to roll that up to get to the very top, and you can see there's the top. Pinch the stitch, pull out that top line. Go down quite a ways, pinch a stitch, pull out the top line. Go down another 1/5 of the way or so, pinch and pull. And pinch and pull until you get the top row out. And once you get that top row out, then you can then go ahead, remove your waste yarn. Just like that. Pull out that loop. Be sure and tie a knot on this one because this was just your yarn tail. It did not have a knot on it. I'm going to just pick up that end stitch just like that. Tie a knot. Do it one more time. A shorter, smaller needle would be helpful. Just like that. And I'm going to hide that in between the two layers. Cut it off. I'll show you the end in just a second. You're going to take these two, pop them on your needle, and I will link these metal wool needles down in the description box below. And I'm going to just pop that in between the two layers, pull it out, and cut it off. And you can see that we have a beautifully seamed edge that looks like the rest of the work, and it's going to give you lots of nice stretch on your cuff. You're not going to have any tightness. It's going to be absolutely beautiful. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to sew up the side. I have put gray yarn, the color of my cuff, onto my needle. We're going to make sure this is, well, it is in half because your seams will keep it that way, but we're going to fold it in half, and I'm going to, okay, now where our color, you can't even see where we joined our yarn, but you can feel kind of the little knots in there. I'm going to just give it a rotation so that either this, because my knots are right on this row here, I can feel them there. I'm going to rotate it half a stitch so that the wide part of the V is going to the left and the point of the V is up to the right. or I'm going to take this side actually. Wide part of the V is going to the left. The point of the stitch is to the right. That is the side I'm going to seam on this one. Over to this side, I'm going to pull it up there. This one naturally falls in that direction. I'm going to take my yarn. I'm going to just pick up that very corner and go into that very corner stitch up here. I'm going to join at the corner. Take these two, tie a knot to secure. I'm going to tuck that in there just to get it out of my way. Okay, lining up your rows, and I'm going to show you how you figure out where to put your thumb. Okay, my hand and your hand from my cuff to here, it's going to be a different length. And you may want to add another, you may, try it with this size and then add another section if you wanted to. But I think that this length should probably be good for all sizes, I would imagine. And it's just a matter of where you put your thumb. Okay, so I'm going to line up my rows. So the wide part of the V is to the left. And we're going to do the invisible join. I'm going to get up into that first stitch and I'm going to take the first two gray ones. So I'm going to take the middle bar of that stitch and the middle bar of that stitch, and I'm going to pull through. I'm going to come over to this side and I'm going to do the same thing, the first two. Then where I came out is right here. I'm going to go back into that same stitch, pick up 1 and 2. And over here into where I came out, pick up 1 and 2. And 2 and 2 and 2 and 2, back and forth till they get to the end of this burgundy. That's 16 stitches, and 2, and then we'll fit it and we'll see. And 2, I'm at the end of the gray there. I should be at the end of the gray on this side. I was 1 short, and that's all because of where I went in over here. So I'm just going to pick up the 1 gray just to match that, okay? So that's, again, I tied my knot here, so I was just 1 stitch down here, but I evened it out at the base of the gray. I'm going to pinch the top and I'm going to pull that to tighten. Look at how beautiful that is. Finding that same row, we're going to now go a little bit lower. I'm going to go into that last gray and pick up the 2 burgundy. Call it burgundy, Merlot. Into the last gray here and pick up those next 2 stitches. When you have stripes, it's very, very easy to keep it even. And I'm going to go 2 more and 2 more. I'm going to pinch and pull. I'm going to put my hand right into here now. What you want to watch for first off, oops, my rings are snagging. Oh, look at that, got a snag on that. There we go. You want to adjust this so that your seam here is where you want it to end on your fingers. Don't worry about this part right now. Worry about where you want your seam to end. I want mine to end at my knuckles here, okay? So that's where it's going to end. I have to then pop this over and say, okay, so then where does that make my thumb sit? If this is where I want it to go, let me kind of eyeball it. So for this one, I think at the top of the burgundy here, and once this is tight at the bottom of the burgundy. So no, I want to go a little bit higher. Hang on. Just like that. So 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 20. Here's where my thumb is. It's hard to hold this for the camera. Here's where I want this to come around. So go a little bit lower than what you think it's going to be. And I know that mine is 22 stitches down because I've made one already. So I'm going to go 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22. I'm going to go 22 stitches down, and then I'm going to come back and show you what I mean, okay? And show you how it fits. It's really, you have to try it on and do it yourself, but because everybody's hand is different, but I actually don't have to go off camera. I'll just do it really quickly here because I know it's the end of the gray. for the other one that I did. And that's 22 stitches down. You might have longer fingers, you might have shorter fingers. So it's all dependent. I'm going to pull that just like that. I'm going to stick my hand back in there. And I know that's where my thumb is going to basically be. Then that ends up where it's supposed to be. You only need 6 stitches on each side for the average thumb, okay? Actually, it's 5 and 10 all around, but I'm gonna do 6 so that I can go to the bottom of my burgundy. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to tie a knot at the base of this gray. So I'm gonna take that whole stitch there and the whole stitch there, and I'm going to finish that off just with one simple tie. Then I'm going to put this into the gray stitch, and I'm going to trail it up to the top of this burgundy one right there. So I've trailed it up 6 stitches. And then I want to just pull on this because I don't want any gathering in there. And for me not to have gathering in there, I have to tie it off here. So I'm going to pick up that stitch. Almost snagged it there. And now, no matter how much I pull on this, it's not going to gather it in there. I'm going to continue my invisible join. So I'm going to go into the, actually I'm not going to do that. I'm going to pick up this first, the burgundy stitch here, the last one, and then go over to this one that I just knotted off on. And we're going to tie a knot here too, just to secure. That is now our thumb. I have 6 stitches here, 6 here. That's a total of 12. You might have to adjust that again for your hand size. I'm going to go into the base of that burgundy again and pick up the 2 white. Into the base of the burgundy, pick up the 2 white. Now I'm going to go into the base of the white and pick up 2 gray. And do it again on this side. Pick up the last 2 gray. And the last 2 on this side. Pick up the white and the white. We're going to pick up 2 of the burgundy, so I'm going into the white and picking up 2 burgundy, going into that white because that was my last stitch on this side, picking up 2 burgundy or Merlot. Then I'm going to pick up my last 2 and my last 2. I'm going to squeeze down here and pull through, pull. And there we go. We have our thumb and we have our top done. We have to just attach these 2 so they're nice and even. Pick up that last stitch there and pick up that last stitch here. Bring them together nice and even. Go back into that first one that you went through, tie off a knot, pull that knot down with your thumb, go in, 1 more knot, fasten off. Take this and weave it in to the edge there, just through that top layer, and then back. Don't pull it, you don't want to gather it, you just want to hide it, and then into the work between the 2 layers, pull through and cut it off. And I'm going to hide this one too. Pop that onto your needle, into the work between the 2 layers, and out, and cut it off. Putting that on my hand, it fits beautifully. Thumb is perfect. You can choose to make it bigger or smaller. 6 on each side is perfect for my hand. There you go. Do that to your second mitt. All right, so I have them both done and I love them. I think they're so nice. Put them on for you. Then I'm going to give you the row counts for the second pair. There we go. I need to get my nails done. Sorry. There we go. they're just the perfect length. And again, you can adjust them by your thumb. You might have to move your thumb up just a little bit, which would make your cuff a little bit shorter, make these a little bit longer. But I think this row count is pretty good to say it's one size fits all. But again, you can adjust them by adding rows. There we go. That's that pair. Let's check out these ones. So this is the cuff, and for the 12 rows, rather than do all gray, I did 4 and 4 gray, 2 white, 4 gray, 2 white. Then you can see I followed the patterning down. That's the only difference, is the cuff, but it makes the whole thing look different. So those ones are the same size, exactly. There we go. I'm gonna be nice and toasty warm. Actually, I'm not. I have to make more for myself because I know who I'm giving these to. There you go, friends. 2 pair of warm fingerless mitts, 1 video. And be sure and pair it with my Shelley's 4-point ear warmer tutorial. Isn't that beautiful? I posted at the same time I'm posting these mitts, so you can have a look for that. But what a beautiful set that makes, and what a beautiful gift it would be. There we have it. We've got a beautiful pair of fingerless mitts. And you know what? Maybe you have already gone ahead and made the second pair. Even though there's just a slight change to them, they look different, and it's just a nice little extra pair that you'll have for yourself. So don't forget to make the matching ear warmer, and also remember that it makes a beautiful gift. Who wouldn't want it? All right, friends, thanks again for joining me. It's always a pleasure spending time with you, and I appreciate you more than you know. Take care, have a blessed day, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.